I love painting minis. I love seeing myself get better at a hobby that I enjoy. I love bringing that lifeless gray plastic to life. But what I hate, and I mean hate, is making bases for those miniatures, which is super unfortunate because no matter how good a job I do painting the mini, if it doesn't have a good base, it falls flat. So I should probably get better at making bases. Okay, so first off, I told myself I was never going to make this video because I thought there's a million videos out there on how to make bases. What can I add to it? But then I kind of thought, if I hate them so much, why not give people a couple more avenues that they can take? So what we're going to do today in this video is I'm going to make 3 separate bases, 3 different kinds, 3 different ways that hopefully will help you. And I'm going to do it in the cheapest, most efficient, fastest way possible because those things are important to me and hopefully they're important to you. But first, before we get into those, I kind of have to show you why bases are important. I never thought they were until I painted this model. This model is called Plugger. He's from Warmachine and he's from the Gravedigger faction, which are basically trench warriors. And he's the first model that I really did like a big kit bash on, and I wanted to make him look a certain way, and so I decided I was going to do a big base for him. And as you can see, I mean, the idea that I had was he's jumping over the trench down in there to fight whoever's in his way, you know. And so I made this trench using the tools that I'm going to show today. The sandbag and the shovel are honestly sculpted by me, by hand. Nothing too fancy, just rolling some snakes out of your modeling clay and letting it dry. And the build up here in the back, this is all just cork, which we'll talk a little bit about today. A few layers of cork and our wood and a little grass tuft here on the end just to kind of make it nice. But I love this model and I love the idea of having it jumping down into the trenches, and I thought, well, with a base like this, I can do that. And now, is this the best base in the world? No, heck no. But for my first attempt at like a fancy base, it was awesome. Took a lot of time, and we'll talk about that. Now, when I decided to start putting these bases together, I thought, well, I've got a bunch of Warmachine stuff that needs bases, so let's do it for 3 separate factions. We'll do a trench base, we'll do a cliff for under a mountain, and we'll do cobblestone because cobblestone is just a good base. But if you get any of these bases that have the holes, I don't know if you saw, the first thing I did was just put down some tape, and now because I'm making trenches, I'm going to put some boards down, and these are just stirring sticks that you can get at any Starbucks. So if you need one, just go into a Starbucks, grab one. They're definitely not hard to find. The glue that I'm using is a hobby glue, but any Elmer's glue, any PVA glue can be used. So don't worry about getting fancy glue or anything. Just get the glue that you want and put it down. Then I'm making a coating of ground, right, of dirt. And literally it is dirt and glue. That's all this is. You take some dirt, you throw it in the oven for an hour at a really low heat, and then you can put it on any base that you want, mix it to the glue to get the consistency that you want, and then you can put it on. Nice and easy and free. And once it dries, it looks pretty good, and you can always add paint to make it any color that you want to. But in the end, just put it in there, put it where you want. I wanted these to look dirty, and so that's what I did. And I talk about this a little bit later on. You don't need this razor wire that I added to one of the bases. I made 2 trench bases, as you can see from the top there. All you need is some wire, wrap it around a straw, something circular that you have that's long. You can get bigger straws, thinner straws, whatever it is, to get the right size that you want, and then you just glue it in place. And honestly, that's pretty much all you need for a trench base. Now, this is another model that I had that I wanted the wood to look a little more worn than just the stir stick normal wood. And so I just went back with a razor blade and just cut scratches across it to make it look more worn, and I did that to both of my Trench Crusade bases as well. And I think it makes it look really good and worn out. And then once it's dry, all you have to do is paint it. So taking that Umbral Umber from P3 Paints, I watered it down to make it into a wash and put it over the top. You can make it as thick or as thin as you want. The thinner it is, the more it absorbs into the wood and makes the wood look nice and worn out. And so I thought, this is easy. And I didn't have to prime it or anything. Just a really easy way to make a trench base. And that's it. Okay, for the sake of this video, I wanted to make these very user-friendly things, so I didn't include a lot of this stuff. Because I feel like if you're getting into the hobby, the last thing you need to be doing is spending your money on all of this. But this stuff is fantastic. If later on you decide you want to do more bases, flowers are great to add into anything. There are grass tufts in a million different kinds. I mean, it's insane how much there is in grass tufts. And then stuff like this, snow, gravel, chunks of wood, which you don't even have to use as wood. You can make that a boulder or a rock or whatever you want. Battlefield grass is always nice to be able to throw down. And then this is actually one that I use in today's video, which is the razor wire to make razor wire for our trenches. But you don't have to use the stuff. Normal wire that you find around your house can be used just as easily. But this stuff's nice to have, and it makes basing faster in the long run. So the first base that I made was for my Gravediggers. This second base is going to be for my Frozen Forgotten starter pack, and you can use it for either faction, and it's basically just a simple on top of like a cliff or a rock face. And I'm using cork board that I literally pulled off of a wall. Okay, so you can find it, you can find coasters, whatever it is, and then just tear it into the size that you want and put it on that base that you've already prepared with that tape from before. And then once that's down, you can use your ground mixture that we made with the first base, and you can apply it as much as you want. You can make it look as coarse, as grainy as you want. I kind of like it looking flat with a little bit of an overhang, like they're on top of a cliff looking down at something. And so that's kind of what I went for here. And then just clean up the base a little bit and paint it. Using the Cardic Flesh from P3, I went over this and just got in all the crevices. You can dry brush it after, you can add a tuft of grass, you can do whatever you want afterwards to make this look how you want. But honestly, this is enough to have a pretty good, simple cliff base that looks really nice when it's all done. Okay, so this is my bits box, and this is my 3D printed bits box, and it's got a little bit of stuff that I like to use or have used for other things. And what I mean by that is you can 3D print dying trees. You can 3D print flora, fauna, ferns, things like that. Pretty easy. And yeah, it's hard. Depending on the resin that you use, it's going to be. If you get a better resin, it can be softer. And maybe I should print some of these out in like my Wargamer resin so you can see that it's got a lot of give to it, but that's for the future. But I mean, I've got octopus hands, I've got mushrooms, I've got more mushrooms, I've got candles, which I had up here, which are fantastic for, you know, if you want to make something a little more grim dark, you can have candles that you throw on the bases. I 3D print rocks from time to time because I like to use rocks that are nice and thin and things like that. So that's something you can do. You can 3D print helmets, pieces to other things, skulls. I got a bunch of skulls that you can use for basing if you want to. I mean, I have hearts. The beauty of a 3D printer is you can literally 3D print anything you want, even if that is a brain for something that you want to do down the road. Okay, so it's awesome to have this, and you can pretty much 3D print almost anything that you want to add to a base. There are some exceptions, but I mean, it's a great tool to have for 3D, for modeling and painting your bases, getting things ready, and it's just nice to be able to have the occasional skeleton body with a sword in case you need to put that down on a base, or even make grass tufts, which aren't great, but in a pinch, they will do. Okay, and now this is the easiest base of them all, but it does require a 2-part epoxy or clay or something like that. You mix it together, you push it down onto the base, and then once you have it, I got my finger wet to get rid of the fingerprint texture, just kind of a nice little easy thing. But then using a 3D printed texture wheel, I pushed it on the top. And obviously the first time I realized, oh man, I got way too much of this, so I'll take it off. And you can save that for later. And then all you do is flatten it down, get your texture wheel out, make sure it's nice and smooth on the top surface like we did before, and then you just roll it in. And it might take 1 or 2 times before you realize, oh man, I still got way too much clay, but that's okay. You can save that for something else and or move on to the next base with it, whatever it is. But after 1 or 2 tries, I mean, this took 5 minutes start to finish to get this done. And I love this because it's so simple, but at the same time, you do have to do it a couple times to get to the point where it's right where you want it. But then once you roll it on there, it works perfectly. And if you have to touch stuff up a little bit, you can totally do that. It's not a big deal to go back over it. And then that's it. You let it dry and you paint it. I cannot think of a simpler base than this one. Yeah, it requires a little bit of work, but definitely not that much. And painting it is a breeze, which we'll get to in just a sec. And yeah, if you're wondering what to use that leftover stuff for, you can use it to make your Space Marines better, just like I did. Perfect. Anyway, now once you have that done, you prime it. I primed it black, and then I hit it with a dry brush of the pig gray going over it because I wanted it to be gray cobblestones. I then went at it with another lighter coat of the Morrow white from P3, just to get those edges a lot more highlighted and make these cobblestones really pop out. And again, you can add dirt, you can add some flowers coming up through the cobblestones, whatever you want. But this is just a really simple, easy base that looks great. And that's it. Those are my 3 quick, easy, simple bases. Are they the most beautiful bases in the world? No, but you can dry brush them. You can add little bits and pieces to them. You can do just about whatever you want, or you can go with that dark, dirty, grungy, easy base that it is. They're just simple bases that if you want to get an army out on the table, you can. I'm a firm believer in getting the army on the table, and then if you don't like it, making it better later, because you really can. I mean, all you have to do is glue down a couple tufts, do a little dry brushing, and that's it. You got a nice base. No, it's not the best base in the world, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about miniature bases for beginners who don't have a ton of money, who are just trying to get into the hobby and want to get their stuff on the table, but don't want it to look like all they did was paint a miniature and plop it down in some plastic. So I hope I helped. And as always, I want your feedback. Let me know, what is your go-to base, the easiest base? Are these the easiest out there? No, I'm sure there's other things out there, but man, some of these are fast and they're just nice to get done and get stuff on the table. But what is your go-to base? What do you like to do the most? And what do you add to your bases to make them look better? Granted, you could use wire, you could use, foliage from outside. There's a lot of things you can do, and I would love to hear what people have and put those in the comments below for other people to see and get ideas from it. Like I said at the beginning of all of this, my goal here is to make tabletop gaming accessible for anyone who wants to get into it, regardless of how much money they have or how much time they have. And I feel like these bases can help you do that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, stick around. I have so much stuff on my plate right now for videos that are coming out, and it's anywhere from Warmachine to Marvel Crisis Protocol to Warhammer to Twisted, if you know what that is, because it's coming back and I'm super excited to do a video on that coming up. I also have my dragon from Conquest from last week's video that I'm going to airbrush as soon as my new compressor gets here. And we're going to dabble with doing some airbrushing with the P3 paints, and I'm super excited for that, and hopefully it's something that you want to see. So like I said, drop that like, stick around, and as always, don't spend so much time building your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Until next time.